A white man fatally shot 3 people inside of a Jacksonville, Florida Dollar General store on Saturday in a predominantly black neighborhood in an attack that the local sheriff has called racially motivated, a hate crime. The shooter then killed himself. One of the Jacksonville sheriffs has said that the shooter hated black people. There is absolutely no evidence that the shooter is part of any larger group, meaning that he was a lone wolf. He acted alone, motivated by his hatred of black people, according to the sheriff of Jacksonville, Florida. The shooter has been described as being in his 20s. He used a Glock handgun and an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle with at least one of the firearms painted with a swastika. That's right, the Nazi emblem or icon, whatever the term is, a swastika. The shooter left behind writings, otherwise known as a manifesto, that led investigators to believe that he committed the shootings because it was the 5th anniversary of when another gunman opened fire during a video game tournament in Jacksonville. That gunman killed 2 people before fatally shooting himself. So we're told that this shooting occurred just before 2 p.m. at a Dollar General near Edward Waters University, which is a small, historically black university. The shooter had driven there specifically from neighboring Clay County. Shortly before the attack, the shooter had sent his father a text message telling him to check his computer. "Hey Dad, I'm about to go on a mass shooting massacre." The father found writings and the family notified 911, emergency medical services, but the shooting had already begun. That's pretty much all the information that we have at this moment in time. We're not told the name of the shooter, who again has taken his own life, and we're not told the names of any of the victims. We're told that 3 have been shot dead. We're told that all 3 are black. We're not told of any other injuries. I think I've seen another headline mentioning that there are other people that are injured, but I don't know that for sure. Of course, I'm going to say full condolences to all family and friends of the victims, 3 deceased, perhaps others injured. Their lives have been ripped apart at this point. One minute they're minding their own business, the next minute their family member, their friend, their schoolmate, their university mate has been shot and killed, seemingly by a racist, seemingly by a white supremacist. We're told that the shooter in his 20s used a Glock handgun and an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. One of the firearms was painted with a swastika, a Nazi emblem, pretty indicative of the shooter's ideology, motivated to the point that he purposefully drove to a predominantly black community. The shooting took place just before 2 p.m. at a Dollar General store near Edward Waters University, which is a small, historically black university. He purposefully shot and murdered 3 people, presumably strangers. Why did he target them? Seemingly because of their skin color. They were black. He wanted to kill some black people. Seemingly, that's the impression I'm getting from the details within this article. Again, we're told that just prior to the shooting, the shooter had sent his father a text message saying, "Hey Dad, check the computer. I've got some writings on there, some Word documents. I've written out a bit of a manifesto." The father read those details and immediately he called 911, or perhaps other people in the family immediately called 911. They knew that the shooter was intent on murdering. Perhaps they knew he was armed. Perhaps it became abundantly clear that he had racially motivated malintent. But unfortunately, by the time that the family reached out to 911, not saying that it was through any of their fault, they seem to have acted as quickly as they could have, but tragically the shooting had already taken place. The scumbag, seemingly white supremacist shooter kills 3 innocent parties, all black, purposefully targeted, and then takes his own life. That part I don't have a problem with. So of course the whole community is going to be rocked by this. Earlier that day, there was a commemorative march on Washington in the nation's capital where organizers drew attention to the growing threat of hate-motivated violence against people of color. So that was in Washington, and this attack happened in Florida. I'll be honest. My general take on things is that there isn't a great deal of racism out there. That's my general take on things. I don't want to be pushed too much to clarify what I mean, but I would say that racism is on a spectrum. You know, we can all have our opinions, we can all have our thoughts, we can all think, hey, look, that group over there, they're not my favorite group for this reason, that reason. And maybe some of those reasons are valid, maybe some of them aren't valid. But, you know, things are going to happen with our brains. We can't really control our thoughts so much. Our thoughts occur typically due to our experience, our understanding of the world, this kind of thing. And let's say you've had a number of negative experiences with a given group, well, then you're not going to feel overly positive towards that given group. You know, this is natural and to be expected. But as I say, in my mind, racism is a spectrum, on the other end of the spectrum, you have when you take action in regards to your bigotry, your discriminatory opinions. If you actually take action, then you're crossing a line, in my opinion. Well, I think in most people's opinion. That's really where things become problematic, when you take action. And that action could take a number of different forms. You might shun a person or a group based on their identity of one sort or another, their race, their religion, their height, their weight, their age, their sex, their gender, whatever it happens to be. If you actually take action, well, then you're causing harm to somebody, potentially causing harm or causing a disservice to somebody. That's not good. And I would suggest that in a lot of situations that ought to be punishable. As an example, if you're a landlord or a real estate agent and you discriminate against a certain group, a certain race, for example, well, then you ought to face consequences should you have done that. And I guess the spectrum ends in this type of situation where a scumbag psychopath is so enamored with their own ideology that they feel that they're justified. In fact, they feel that they are doing the right thing by taking the lives of innocent parties based on one aspect of their identity. And this scumbag was right at the end of that spectrum. I don't care if he has thoughts going on in his head. If those thoughts are unpalatable, so be it. If they stay in his head. If he wants to make writings, even if he wants to publish those writings, even if he wants to go online and purport, spread, discuss, analyze his opinions, I have no problems with that. None. Freedom of speech, freedom of thought. But it becomes a problem when action is taken based on bigotry or discrimination of one kind or another. And this scumbag, as I say, felt entitled enough to enforce his murderous ideology onto innocent parties, take their lives, 3 shot and killed, all black, purposefully targeted because of that. He literally traveled to a black community, went to a Dollar General store. I think that's part of it too, I'm guessing. He's thinking to himself, oh, there's going to be black people in the Dollar General store. I don't know, I'm just guessing at what his reasoning is. Oh, look, you're a black person. I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to take your life. It's awful. That's seemingly very much a hate crime. I would imagine that it's going to go down in history as such. There's not going to be a trial. The scumbag coward took his own life. So what was the point of that? Murder 3 people because you're so enamored with your own twisted ideology and then you take your own life. I mean, I don't know. It's just bizarre and stupid and cowardly, callous, all of these things. It's disgusting. So of course, full condolences to the family and friends of all the victims. I believe that there are some injured. This article hasn't informed us of that. The whole community is going to be reeling, and those people that are fearful of racism within America, they're going to be even more fearful. This is another severe example for them. So I don't know, has my view changed? So I think I started off this little rant, this little tangent by saying that I generally think that there's not a great deal of severe racism in America, in the Western world. I guess I still hold that true, but seemingly clearly there are at least pockets of severe racism, murderous racism, which still exists, and perhaps that's always going to be the case. Perhaps that's inevitable. So what can we do about it? Well, we can be wary. I don't think denying freedom of speech or denying freedom of thought, I don't think that's the right way to go. I used to follow a lot of internet commentators, YouTube commentators several years ago that would discuss freedom of speech to a large extent. I've not really followed those guys or the subject for quite a few years, but my take on it is that I don't want to be censored. I'm censored left, right and centre, to be honest with you. I don't want to be. I'd rather not be. And with that, I don't feel it's justified to censor others. I feel that when we do censor others, when society does censor others, we are potentially shooting ourselves in the foot. I could use the COVID-19 worldwide response as a bit of an example. It was declared, let's stick with YouTube as an example. You know that your favorite content creator, whenever they spoke about COVID-19, their videos would get blocked, they'd get demonetized, they'd get struck, they may have lost their channel if they say anything which is against the globally directed narrative in regards to COVID-19. You know, we all saw that. We didn't really want to recognize it. A lot of us have probably forgotten about it, but that was an absolute thing. If you're Andrew Tate, as an example, and you state your opinions on a man's role in a relationship, well, then you're going to get cancelled. You're going to get booted from every platform. You're going to have your bank accounts closed because you're going to be considered a danger, regardless of the hundreds of thousands or millions of young men that feel emboldened and helped by your rhetoric. So freedom of speech really needs to be upheld. So what's my point here? I'm just saying that the answer isn't to shut these people out. If this 20-year-old or this man in his 20s, if he was espousing these beliefs, if he was espousing ideology, he shouldn't have been shut out. I don't know that he was, but he should have had the opportunity for others to unpack his hatred, to challenge those aspects of his ideology that was problematic. I don't know. I'm going on too much of a ramble. I doubt anyone's listening at this point, so I'll wrap things up and thank you for your time at this point. If you do appreciate the coverage, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit. If you disagree with anything I've said, if you think I'm a bit of a plonker, if you think I'm a little bit inappropriate, if I've missed the point, do let me know. I'm not going to block you or delete your comments unless they're really outrageous. As long as they're respectful towards me, the victims, etc., then the comments will stand. From me, YouTube may have a different opinion. But yeah, respect is all I ask. So I'm going to wrap things up. Take care.